Hey guys, it's Kim from Honey Trail Farm, and today I'm going to shoot my annual What Tomatoes Am I Growing? If you're new here, every year I shoot a video about what tomatoes varieties that I'm going to grow because, to be honest with you, that was my gateway drug into really diving headfirst into heirloom gardening. And now, just a few years later, I am a market farm. I grow hundreds and thousands of pounds of food each year. But for me, it all started with my love of tomatoes. I've always loved tomatoes, but once I figured out there were more than just like red, yellow, and orange tomatoes, that's when I really started living. And I will advise you that this is going to be a very long video. I know now because this is my third annual video, and you're gonna want a drink, a snack, a pad of paper, and a pen if you are a tomato lover like me, so that you can write down maybe some that you would like to try. So in the beginning, I thought that like 40 tomatoes was a lot. Now I grow hundreds. I have two high tunnels, 24 by 95, that I'm going to fill with tomatoes. Not really. I wish I could, but I can't sell all those, and so I gotta put other things in it too. But I do have a different game plan this year than I have in years past. So now that I'm a market farm, I have to really think about boring things like profitability and what other people like to eat and grow and see. And most people like to see red tomatoes mainly. And then from there they might pick an orange, and then from there they might pick a dark tomato. So really I'm trying to grow specific varieties for selling in my high tunnel, but I'm still gonna grow my favorites, and I'm always gonna try new ones, and those will be for me, and I will put those outside. Me and my CSA members, because I feel like people like that would appreciate some fun tomatoes. But I'm gonna start out with my game plan for my selling tomatoes. So tomatoes that are gonna go in the high tunnel. Now, I love heirloom tomatoes. I really do. They stole my heart. They steal the show every year. They're beautiful, but in terms of production, they're not always the most reliable and productive plants out there. So just for that, because when you have high tunnels, that is treasured space, I would say. So I need those varieties to really be disease resistant and productive mainly. I haven't gotten into grafting, and I'm not sure that I will. I hear a lot of different ideas, so I'm not going to go into that this year. I might try that next year. But as for what I'm going to grow in my high tunnel, I am growing red varieties, a dark variety, and an orangey striped variety, as well as cherry tomatoes. But I'm gonna start with the red tomatoes that I'm growing in my high tunnel. The first of which I grew last year, so that I know I already like it. And it performed amazingly in really crappy conditions. If you're not new to my channel, you know that the tunnel that I'm in right now isn't the greatest. It gets really, really hot and it stays hot, and I have a hard time ventilating it, which is why I'm not gonna put tomatoes in this tunnel this year. I think I'm gonna do ginger and turmeric, which are tropical plants, which would probably really appreciate the heat and the humidity, and tomatoes not so much. But I only grew one hybrid, like greenhouse style tomato in here, and the rest were heirlooms. And I can tell you that the hybrid defeated all odds and cranked out tomatoes all season, despite the terrible heat in here. And all of my heirloom tomatoes, by about August, they were really sad. Now, some of them revived themselves for a nice fall flush, which I appreciated. But the hybrid really shone, I guess is the correct word. And that was Marbone from Johnny's. And it is, I wish it didn't, because it's really expensive seed. And but it was worth the money. And so I will be growing that this year, as well as another red slicer that I ordered from, I can't remember if it was High Mowing or Johnny's, but I think you can get them at both. It's called Cayman. I don't know much about it. It's my first year trying it, but the seeds were cheaper, so I was seeing if it could hold up to the Marbone. And if so, I will replace it next year. And then those are the red slicing varieties that I'm going to grow in my high tunnel. I'm also going to try Cherokee Carbon, which is the hybrid play on Cherokee Purple. And so I've heard good things about it. I watched some other lady talk about it and she liked it. So I'm going to try that as my dark tomato. And then for my orangish, yellowish slicing variety is a new variety from Johnny's called Harvest Moon. We'll see. I don't have any experience with that, but that's what I'm trying this year in my greenhouse for production. And then for the cherries that I'm going to grow in my high tunnel, I have to have Sun Gold. It is my all-time favorite cherry tomato. In fact, I'm narrowing down my cherry tomatoes huge this year. Normally I grow a huge spread, but I'm still gonna have the colors that I want, but I'm just gonna cherry pick my favorite. Pun intended. Even though I'm growing for production in my high tunnel, I still want a nice colorful cherry tomato basket because it's important to me. And so I'm gonna do tons of Sun Gold with some other colors mixed in. I like Sakura. That's another hybrid from Johnny's. It produces really, really well. It has a bigger sized fruit, so it fills out a pint-sized cherry tomato basket a little better than like your Sun Gold, which is smaller. And then for the color in my cherry tomato basket, last year I tried Lucky Tiger for the first time. It's like an elongated green stripy variety. Really liked it. Really, really sweet, super fruity. I always gravitate for Sun Gold if I'm gonna eat a cherry tomato, but that one almost equally enjoyable. I really, really liked it. And then for my other colorful part of my cherry tomatoes, I'm gonna grow black cherry. That was one of my very first tomato varieties that were fun that I tried, and I loved it. A lot of people love black cherry. It's got like a smokier flavor, but it's still super sweet, and it's a larger fruit and it fills out the basket. And so that concludes what hybrid / heirloom varieties that I'm growing for production this year. Now let's get to the fun part. These are the varieties that I grow just for me, just for my pure enjoyment, and I am trying a lot of new ones this year, as well as bringing in some of my old favorites. I'm going to start with the cherry tomatoes that I'm growing this year. I have to have Sun Gold. It's like the one hybrid. If I had to grow all heirlooms, which 99.9% I do, but I would miss this one. It's super sugary sweet. It's a lot of people's favorite, and for a good reason. One of my all-time favorite tomatoes. I cannot live without it. I can't. I would be, I don't want to say heartbroken, but heartbroken without it. Like if I didn't have it. It's also my kids' favorite. They all choose that one over every other tomato. And my second favorite, other than black cherry, which I'm growing too, but I already talked about it, I love Isis Candy. It's a larger cherry tomato, but it's super sugary sweet. I guess if I didn't have Sun Gold, this would be my next pick, because when you're looking for a cherry tomato, I don't know if you're like me, like I go for different tomatoes for different things. And for cherry tomatoes, I want like a super sugary little snack, a little pick-me-up when it's warm from the hot summer sun. That's my favorite. But I like Isis Candy. So I'll try to go in terms of color, but I'm not going to promise anything. Like I said, my cherry tomato varieties this year, I'm narrowing way, way down. So this won't take very long. Berry's Crazy Cherry, just because look how many it makes. This is like survival food because there's like literally 50 cherry tomatoes in a cluster. They're really sweet. Sometimes if there's too much water, they can be bland, but I find that with lots of tomatoes. Just, it's a low acid, yellow cherry tomato. Next one that some people say tastes weird, but I genuinely love this one. Not only the color, I mean, you don't see this in a grocery store. Isn't that the whole point of growing your own food? But I love this one. It's beautiful. Nobody has typically seen these. Regular Joes, I guess, don't typically see tomatoes like this. And so it's beautiful and it tastes good. Another one that's this shape, Lucky Tiger is this shape and kind of has this coloring but not dark. It's green with a red stripe. I'm growing that one that I have already talked about, but I'm including it. I grow this one every year just because my kids have fun picking this one. Like I can set my 5-year-old, I can tell him to go pick these and it'll keep him busy for a little bit because they're teeny tiny and they take a long time to pick. But this is always the first tomato to ripen because the fruits are so small. So I'm not gonna lie, I will notice it at the very beginning of tomato season because it's typically the first to ripen. And then after everything else starts coming in, I totally forget about this. It's kind of more of a novelty, but it's that like first taste of summer, which is why I continue to grow it. Orange Hat, I've grown this the last 2 years. I really like this. It's a dwarf tomato, but it's super sweet. Almost comparable to the Sun Gold. I mean, obviously not as sweet, but I really, really like this one. The reason why I'm growing this, I mean, I grow hundreds of tomatoes. I don't need a tiny tomato, but it's cute, first of all. Second of all, this is a good porch tomato. So my garden is pretty far away from my back porch, which is where we like to congregate in the summertime. And so I like to have little snacky tomatoes on my porch, and it's a manageable patio size. Like, you obviously can grow tomatoes in pots, but they're gonna be long and gangly and jungly. And this one is just super cute, sitting on your porch. It requires no staking, no nothing. I don't have to manage it. I just get to pick little snacky fruits. And two that I'm trying this year, obviously, Baker Creek is one of my favorite resources for tomato seeds. They have a lot of options. I'm trying Apricot Zebra. Mostly because I know I like green zebra, so if this is anything kind of in the family, like if it was bred from that, I'm not really sure if it was. Doesn't say, but it's beautiful. Look at that coloring. Now, it's a weird size. It's like a saladette, so I don't like that kind of tomato size. I either like the size that you can just pop the whole thing in your mouth, or I like a giant tomato. Don't really love the in-between. So if it's an in-between size and I don't love it, I just kick it out and try a new one. And it says vigorous disease-resistant plants, which if you live in a humid place like I do, tomatoes really start to bite the dust by like August. A lot of times they get blight where I am. And so any kind of disease resistance I am welcome to. So I'm excited to try that. Arija, how do you say that? I'm also not good at enunciating or pronouncing things. It says balanced, tangy, sweet flavor, productivity, and resistance to cracking. So I'm excited to try that one. A lot of cherry tomatoes, well, tomatoes in general, when you get a flush of water, like a rain event or a big storm, or you water too heavily, your fruits can crack. And once they crack, especially in a cherry tomato, they don't typically heal over well. Then the bugs get in and they turn to mush and you lose those. Now, bigger tomatoes, they can crack and heal over a lot of times. Sometimes they don't heal over well, but a lot of times you can still get a good harvest out of them even though they cracked. So how you avoid the cracking, for one, don't overwater. But obviously we can't avoid all cracking because you can't control the weather. Although some people say you can, but I'm not going to go into that today. How you control the cracking is you're going to want to pay attention to your weather, to your forecast. And if you see a big rain coming, you go out and you harvest all of your ripe tomatoes. Or even if they're blushing, I would harvest them. And that will avoid the cracking, especially if you don't grow a crap ton like I do and you need all your tomatoes. Just go out and harvest them. Even if they're blushing, they'll continue to ripen inside because there's an enzyme in there that starts to release. Once you see the blushing, it'll continue to ripen. And to be honest, I don't notice that big a flavor difference. Okie dokie, now for the exciting part. Like I said, I'm gonna grow a lot of my favorites, my trieds and my trues, but I am always expanding my horizons into other things. So I'm gonna start with red tomatoes. Red tomatoes probably have the most varieties just because that's a classic one, and I sell my tomatoes, so I kind of have to think about what other people like too, not just what I like. Although I try to convert every person into the tomatoes that I like. But I'm gonna start with paste tomatoes. I would group these into red tomatoes, and to be honest, I don't like paste tomatoes. I like a really juicy, I wanna like bite it like an apple and it like fall out of my mouth, you know what I mean? And I use all my tomatoes the exact same way. I don't have paste tomatoes for sauce. I don't have them for salsas and stuff. I usually just throw all my tomatoes in the same pot together and boil them down if that's what I'm going for. But in terms of sellability, some people like paste tomatoes for their canning. And so I plan on growing San Marzano. That's a really classic. I don't have a picture for you because it's from Johnny's, because I bought 250 so that I could sell these and plant these. But really classic paste tomato. It's an Italian paste tomato. The Italians know what they're doing with the sauce, and so I'm gonna trust what they say. And a lot of them like this tomato. I've grown it in the past. I bought this one when In My Gardener every year has an end of the year sale, and I always jump on that because it's half price, and so they're already only $2, so that means every pack is $1. So it's like if you can grow new fun varieties and it only costs $1, who cares? I legitimately, I'm not gonna lie to you, I only got this tomato just so that I could say Sheboygan, because that's fun, right? It says its medium fruits have the perfect balance of sweetness and acidity, ideal for sauces, but also delicious eaten fresh. And we'll see about that because paste tomatoes are boring. Okay, that's it. That's all the paste tomatoes I'm growing. Next up, all the big red slicers. So first I'm gonna tell you all the ones that I've grown in the past. Actually, I don't know if I'm growing any new ones. I'm not growing any new red varieties this year. So I might have found some of my favorites in here. So I've grown all of these in the past in no specific order, so I'm not going from most favorite to least. Abe Lincoln, classic, gets really, really big fruits, classic red tomato flavor, acidic, lovely. Love it, sliced on a Sammy, which is what I taught my kids to call sandwiches, and it's really funny when they ask me for a Sammy. German Johnson, I don't have a picture of it, but maybe I do. German Johnson. Honestly, I tried this for the first time just because my married last name is Johnson, and so you gotta have a tomato that's named after you, right? No, but German Johnson is a classic big red beefsteak, pretty productive in my experience, not super blighty. I really like it, just your average red tomato. I love this one. I tried this one for the first time 2 or 3 years ago, probably 3. On accident. I probably got the seeds at an In My Gardener sale, but I love it. This one makes, so I love huge tomatoes. I know that's not really super profitable because typically when you have huge tomatoes, it's not making a ton of fruit, but I love the novelty of just like a gigantic tomato. I really do. It brings out the giggles. It brings out the just sheer joy that only a tomato can bring me. Sorry to my husband. Fruits big enough, there's a typo on the back of this. It's not just me stuttering. It says, if the pink and red flesh doesn't remind you of a big juicy watermelon, the size will. Fruits big enough to give you a meal for the whole family. This heirloom variety dates all the way back to the 1800s, and it's huge and it's delicious, and it's one of my favorite red tomatoes. A classic one that everybody loves, Brandywine Red. I grow it. It's usually one of the first ones to peter out just because it doesn't have super high disease resistance, but when that baby is ripened in the sunshine and it's warm and it's delicious, that's why I grow it. This one I tried for the first time last year and I really liked it. The plants were super productive, bread and salt. Super productive. These made, I mean, some of the fruits on them, they're more of like an ox heart shape, so it's like oblong, but it would be like huge, like as big as your face. The one thing that I noticed, and now that I see this picture, I probably know why. The shoulders don't ripen. That's my only caveat with this variety. Other than that, it makes really big, juicy, delicious tomatoes, but the shoulders are always green. Every single one I picked, and not like just that's the color, like it's hard, kind of. Like you don't eat the top inch. But I'll still grow it because I think it's delicious. I swear, if the wind is picking up in this video, I'm sorry guys if you hear it in the background. It wasn't windy when I came out here. This one, the classic beefsteak. I picked this last year just so I had varieties to sell to the older people that aren't as adventurous in their tomato varieties, because a lot of old people just ask, do you have a beefsteak? And they don't believe me when I just give them a red tomato that's a beefsteak style. They want it to say beefsteak, so this is why I bought it. But it's really delicious. I really like the flavor. One that I've grown for a couple years, but I really noticed it stand out more last year, was Bonnie Best. Because the fruits are really almost blemish free. You'll notice, especially if you're doing a lot of canning, you can come to appreciate the little things, like a perfectly round, blemish free, does not cat face a lot, which means fused blossoms. Like a lot of your big tomatoes are actually two tomatoes formed together. These don't really do that. So for the ease of taking your knife or your scoop or whatever and just coring out the middle, slicing the bottom, throwing it in the pot, like you can go through these really, really fast without it being a boring paste tomato. So I'll continue to grow that. This one, Missouri Pink Love Apple was new to me last year, and all last year, if you watch any of my videos, I called it Mississippi Love Apple the entire year, but this is what I meant. It's a potato leaf variety, so the leaves are shaped a little differently than your classic tomato, which makes it easy if you mix up tags to figure out which one it was. These get really, really big tomatoes, really good red tomato flavor. I love that one. I will always grow it. Rose de Bern was a good one for me. I'm sorry, I'm not dirty. I'm in dirt a lot. So you're going to see me hold these up and my fingernails are always dirty. It says that this one is the Brandywine equivalent version in Europe, which is fun, but it says it's an early producer and popular for the farmer's market, which is probably why I chose it. But I do like it. It's pretty productive. It's early to ripen, and it doesn't make a lot of blemishes or cracks. It holds its shape, which you can come to appreciate. One I really, really, really liked last year, these made gigantic fruits, is Granny Cantrell's. One of my favorite red tomatoes. I'm probably always going to grow it. It says they grow 2-pound tomatoes, and they do. They make huge, delicious tomatoes. Evie's here. She scared me. That concludes the red tomato variety. Turn around. I'm braiding her hair. The next category that I'm gonna go into is one of my favorites. That's why I have so many. It's my orange and yellow variety. I really like them. I really like sweet tomatoes, and so that's probably why some of these are my favorite. Sometimes yellow and orange tomatoes can be kind of bland, but the ones that are tried and true for me are super concentrated, sweet. I love them. But we'll just hop right into it in no particular order. This one I'm growing for the first time this year, orange jazz. Last year I grew pink jazz for the first time and I loved it. Probably my biggest tomato out of the garden last year was a pink jazz tomato, and I mean, I'll see if I can find a picture, but honestly pictures don't even do it justice. I should have taken a picture on the scale, but you know I didn't do that. But they're huge, they're beautiful, they're super juicy and sweet, and it sounds gross when I say that, but like, my mouth is watering. I cannot wait for tomato season. And so, since it's probably from the same breeder, it says it's fruity and juicy with a crisp texture and complex flavor. Large productive plants require staking. So you need a little extra room to grow these big beauties, but it's worth the extra space in my garden, in my opinion, because you can wow your friends with a 2-pound tomato. I grew this one last year, but I didn't have a good tomato year last year. And I know that a lot of people, even from different areas, did not have a good tomato year last year. And you know what? Sometimes that just happens. Every year is not the same, which is kind of the fun of gardening. If you failed at something, you always have next year to try and all winter to research what went wrong. And so last year, I mean, there was just heavy pest pressure. It was kind of a new garden space for me. Actually, it wasn't kind of, it was. I was establishing new beds. It wasn't great. My indoor tomatoes were okay, but my outdoor tomatoes like literally died by August. I got like a month of harvest on them before they all kicked the bucket. So usually I'm an avid seed saver. I save tons of seed, especially tomato seed, because it's so easy. But this variety I had to rebuy and honestly retaste because I don't remember tasting it. And I definitely didn't get to save the seeds before it died. But isn't it beautiful? Honestly, I got it just because it's pretty. So there's that. Another one I'm trying because I love, oh, that reminds me, it's not in here. I better have it. Now that I think about it, I don't see the seed, so I might have to rebuy it. But I love Thornburns Terracotta, one of my favorite orange tomatoes because it's kind of like a dark orange. Like, it's a burnt orange color. It's got kind of a smoky flavor, but also fruity like a orange tomato. One of my favorites. I grow that one every year, so I decided to try Thornburns Lemon Blush this time too, because it's from the same breeder, so maybe I will like it just as large, or just as much. It says large, juicy with tropical fruit notes and perfect acidity balance. Nearly coreless. So I'm excited to try that one this year. Amana, like literally a highlighter orange, but super flavorful. I grow this one every year. Sweet and tangy flavors mimic pineapple without the acidity. I really like that one. I like this one too, Persimmon. It makes really, really big orange tomatoes, and it yields a lot. So it will make tons of tomatoes and with good size, like bigger slicing tomatoes. I really like that one. Dad's Sunset. This is another one with almost no blemishes. It's always beautiful. Yeah, and I said that without reading the back because the back says very smooth, uniform, and keeps very well, and it really does. It has a thicker skin, so it keeps really good on the counter. Good flavor too. Old German. It's like the kind where you cut into it and the center has that like red stripe in the middle and the core, you know what I'm saying? It's beautiful. It's a classic. It's slightly more acidic, and that says it results in a slightly longer shelf life. That's fun. But it's sweet like an orange tomato, and I like it. I love pineapple. I really do. The tomato and the fruit, but the tomato. It makes huge tomatoes, but the plants aren't super productive. So I would say if you're working in a small area and like, let's say you can only have 10 tomatoes, I don't know that I would pick this one, just because you're not gonna get the amount that you're hoping for out of that tomato. But if you have lots of room, you can grow it, because the flavor is good and I continue to grow it, but it's not a super productive plant. Gold medal, also beautiful. It's more of a milder tomato, so like if the acid in it does not sit well with you, this might be a good one to try. Big rainbow, really similar to gold medal, as you can see, but I think that this one tastes a little more. Like, it has more flavor, but it's still beautiful. It makes really, really big fruits. I grow that one every year. One that I grew last year that I must have thrown away, because all I have is my little saved seed, is Virginia Sweets. I really, really liked it. It's another one that's like orange, but if you cut into it, it's got that red in the center, and if you turn the tomato over, it's got that red dot on the bottom. Really, really sweet, pretty productive. I really liked that. Two more tried and trues for me is Kellogg's Breakfast. I don't know if I have Dr. Witchy. There's been a mix-up of my tomato seeds. I don't know if I took them out one day and then misplaced them, which is very likely. But Dr. Witchy and Kellogg's Breakfast, I grow both of them, and they're very similar. They make big yellow tomatoes. It's more of a mild tomato, like if you lower acid, I would say, but they're pretty productive plants. Not the most productive in the world, but productive enough that I keep them around. Really good on a tomato sandwich. One of my favorite yellow varieties. And then this one's more of a novelty, and if I'm keeping it, it must be good, because I would throw it out, but it makes a bunch of tomatoes. It's called Wapsipinickin Peach. It's a smaller size, so it's like that weird in-between that I don't like. It's got fuzzy skin, which is weird, but the fruits are super sweet, and I really, really like this one. I look forward to it every year, and I've grown it every year since I've started gardening, and it's delicious. And that concludes the yellow and orange varieties. And next up, the category is dark. So these are your darker skinned tomatoes. They typically have not super sweet flavor. I mean, all tomatoes to me are sweet, but it's got like a smokier flavor to them. Most of them do. One that's new to me this year, and I'm pretty sure it's that weird in between because it says 5 ounce, but it's called brown sugar. How could I not want to try one that's named brown sugar? It says it's a Russian heirloom with silky texture and a smoky, complex flavor. And I really like dark tomatoes, so I'm excited to try that one. I haven't tried that one before. It's new to me. Carbon. I grow this one typically every year. It's pretty good. It's sweet and smoky. Average productivity, I would say. It's not super prolific, but it's not like on the bottom of the list either. It's just average. Brandywine Black, you have to. It's delicious. Huge fruits. It says heavy yields on vigorous vines will require support. So you're going to have to prop it up, stake it up, cage it up, something, because it's going to run away from you. This one I really, really like the flavor of. It makes big tomatoes, and it says the flavor of black seaman tomato is rich with flavorful hints of pineapple and tropical fruit. I should really do a taste test this year and try to see if I can taste the things that they say that are in there. But I like it. I grow it every year. Two that are very similar, but I think this one tastes better, but this one is prettier, is Black Beauty. This is Brad Gates varieties. I grow it just because look at it. I mean, if you have a basket of red and yellow and stripes and black, most people are like, what is that? Or they're like, is it rotten? It's not rotten. It's just, anthocyanin is actually the thing inside fruits and vegetables that make it that color. And anthocyanins are actually really good for you. They're like antioxidants. And so the more the sun hits a fruit or vegetable with anthocyanin, the darker it gets. So you'll find that if your Black Beauty tomatoes are covered up in foliage, they will still have red on them. They won't be solid black like this. Like this tomato was grown in full sun, so that it could soak it up and come out of its skin. This one, it's not quite as dark. It's got more red and red on it. This one's like a darker red. But someone suggested to me, because I said I grow this, but I don't really like it, which is kind of true. Like the texture is weird. The skin is really thick. This one I like a lot better, Blue Beauty, but it's pretty similar. It doesn't make super large fruits. It's more of like a medium-sized tomato. And Paul Robeson. So it's got like dark green shoulder and like darker red. It's delicious. It's like a classic one that if you don't know very many tomatoes, a lot of people know Paul Robeson, they know Cherokee Purple. You'll notice I didn't say that one because I'm not just wowed. And I'm growing the hybrid version in my high tunnel, so I figured I didn't really need it this year. We'll see if I regret my decision later or not. And for the final category, my most favorite coveted category of them all the weirdos. It's all the striped varieties that I grow. It's the fun ones. It's the ones that you just grow to put a little smile on your face, a little pep in your step. And I'm going to tell you what I'm growing of them this year. Okay, I'm going to lie because this one is actually a green variety. And I love green tomatoes. I like tangy ones, which a lot of the green tomatoes are more of like a sour tomato. In years past, I've grown lots of green, but I figure really because I grow tons, they get lost in the jungle. And the way that you know that a green tomato is ripe is usually just by squeezing it. And do I have time to weed through hundreds of tomato plants and squeeze? No, I don't. But I do keep this one around because I love it that much. It's Cherokee Green. I wish I had a picture of it. I probably do on my phone somewhere. Maybe I'll pop it up on the screen. It's got like a smoky but tangy flavor. It's my favorite green tomato of all time. I love it. Plus, it's not solid green. It's got kind of a golden hue a little bit when it turns when it's all the way ripe. So then it's easy for me to tell that it's ripe because I know what I'm looking for. So I really, really like that one. Okay, Anana's Noir. It was new to me a couple years ago. It's beautiful. You like slice it open and it almost looks tie-dye, to be honest. That's why I keep it around. It is tasty. I do really like it, but it's beautiful among the most. That didn't make sense. But it says superbly flavored 1.5 pound fruit, very heavy yields, and that has been my experience, and so I keep it around. This one was new at Baker Creek this year, and so I had to try it. Queen of the Night. Look how beautiful that is. It's another one of that like saladette sized tomatoes, but I couldn't pass it up. I gotta try it. It's beautiful. This one I've grown in the past, and I got the seeds. I honestly can't remember where I got the seeds. It was like this little mom and pop tomato seed company, and I can't remember what it's called, but then I lost the seeds because my plant died before I could save the seeds. But Baker Creek sells it now, so I repurchased them. The fruits are like little cosmic cocktail tomatoes, so again, a weird size, but a lot of these fun, newer varieties aren't super stable in size. So you'll get a wide range of tomato sizes. Like you might get a bigger one, but you might get a small one, but you might get a medium one. That's typically how open pollinated newer varieties go. But the reason why this one sticks out, and it's not the flavor, although it's good. the foliage and the fruits are fuzzy. And I mean like velvet. Like I walk past it and I just like rub the leaves. I point it out to everybody that comes to my garden, because you just don't see stuff like that. And what is the point of sweating buckets, pulling weeds, doing hard work, if it's like the same crap you can buy at the store? Like you can't get this at the store. And that's why I grow it. It keeps you motivated to work when you don't want to and it's hot. The fun ones are really where my heart goes. Another new one I'm trying this year from Baker Creek is called Alice's Dream. Isn't that so cute and pretty? And it's a bigger tomato, although it doesn't look like it in the picture. It says, a super beautiful beefsteak tomato that bursts with antioxidants and an incredible depth of flavor. It's a medium large beefsteak that's golden yellow with red striping and a blue blush. We love this productive and reliable anthocyanin rich tomato. And so that was like describing everything I like in a tomato. So we'll see. This one, Prairie Fire. Isn't that beautiful? It says wonderfully crisp and juicy with intense flavor. So I'm really excited to try that one. It's probably like the weird shape I don't like, but it's fine. One of my tried and true, Green Zebra. This one's super tangy. If you're looking for a tangy kind of sour tomato, this is your guy. Last year, I bought Green Zebra tomato seeds because the year prior to that, I grew my own save seed and it had crossed. So I didn't get a true Green Zebra tomato 2 years ago, and I was really sad about it. So last year, I purchased seeds, and guess what? Once again, it did not come back true to type. It was not Green Zebra. It must have crossed somewhere, and it's fine. I don't hold it against them, but I've been missing this for 2 years now, and I would really just like one, okay? I miss it. It's tangy, it's sweet, it's super flavorful. It's not a huge tomato, like it's like a smaller one, but very delicious if you like a sour tomato. Now we're gonna get to my tried and trues, okay? Green, I grow a lot of the Berkeley series. So I grow the pink Berkeley tie-dye, one of my very favorite tomatoes. Brad Gates from Wild Boar Farms hybridized this. One that's very similar but slightly bigger, I would say. It's kind of a different shape, is the large barred boar. I don't find a lot of differences in these. I don't. I think they taste super similar. They look super similar, to be honest. Like, I might be able to tell them apart, but I'm not sure if anybody else could. This one's more red than green, and this one's more green than red. That's literally the only difference. It says it's a sweet, rich, dark tomato flavor. I love, in my top 5s for sure, is pink Berkeley tie-dye. To go along with that, I don't have a picture, but I probably can pop a picture up on the screen for you. It's green Berkeley tie-dye. So instead of it being red and green, it's mostly green and red. And it's beautiful, and I love it. And it's got more of a green tomato flavor. Kind of like that tang. Really like it. Also in my top 10. Love it. And then, like I said before, Pink Jazz. Did I already say this one? Or was it Orange Jazz that I was talking about? Pink Jazz. But I was so impressed with this. Once again, it's not super prolific, but it makes huge tomatoes. The flavor's really good, and it's beautiful. And it says bred to be disease resistant, which is true because after all my tomatoes died, I still got a couple more off this plant. So it held out a little longer than the others. And you guys, that concludes it. I told you I was narrowing it down, and it might not seem like it, but to me, this is my narrowed down pile. Like, this is a lot less varieties that I've grown than I've grown in the past. But a lot of them weren't new to me. And so I'm really, really, really excited for tomato season. This year, probably more than ever, we have eaten what we have at home. So last year I preserved a ton of food, and I grew a ton of storage crops like potatoes and sweet potatoes and onions, and I froze tons of peppers, and I made every tomato product you can think of, and I made tons of pickles and green beans. And you know what that means? That means we got food at home. And you know what? I didn't like hearing that when I was a kid, but as an adult, I get it. We do have food at home. And you know what? My food at home is way better than even the most organic you can get at the store. Because it didn't travel anywhere. It didn't lose any nutrition between the garden and me. And I haven't felt the harshness of food increases like most other people have. And so that feels really good. And that's going to motivate me to save just as much or even more food this coming year, and I really encourage you to do that. I know it seems tedious, I know it seems overwhelming, but it's one of the things that's like, it's worth the hard work. It's worth, like, suck it up, buttercup, put your food away. People used to do that. It used to be part of everyday life, and it's not anymore. People think that, like, baseball games and extracurriculars are more important than saving your food in the summertime, and it's just not. I wish I could just get into the heads of everybody and tell them that. But food is really important now more than ever. I encourage you to grow your own food or support someone who does. Buy a CSA. The farmer that does that would really, really, really appreciate it. Take it from me. Okay. The only way that we are going to get through this and be better and lively and thrive, not just survive, is to support your local food systems. Buy local when you can. And support your local farmers. There is my tomato spiel. I hope that got you really excited and pumped for tomato season. I am so ready for fresh fruit. I was telling my husband this, like, I'm so sick of potatoes and green beans and spaghetti. I mean, we're eating, but I'm ready for, like, fresh, off the vine things. But I hope I got you really excited about tomatoes, because if you're a tomato lover like me, we're ready. We're ready for tomatoes. Anyway, I'm going to get busy. I got a lot of work to do every single day. Day in and day out, all day. All I do is work. Not really. Anyway, if you stick around, subscribe to my channel. It's about to be our time to shine, okay? We're about to have lots of garden vlogs, lots of garden walks. I take you around and just kind of vlog style show you what I'm doing every day. If that's what you're into, subscribe, because it's about to get fun around here. And I have got to open the sides on this tunnel because the sun is out now and I am sweating, and I also can't see. A lot of people comment on why I wear giant sunglasses in all my videos, and it's because I have blue eyes and I'm blind. But anyway, that's enough rambling. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later. Until next time.